Baguio City is one of the places visited by tourists. Due to the cold climate here, there are many places and sites to visit here. Some of the attractions here are Mines View Park, Burnham Park, and many more. Baguio is known all over the Philippines, so many people want to come here. Due to the cold climate in Baguio, many people want to go there for trip. Baguio City is also considered the summer capital of the Philippines due to the cold climate. Even though Baguio is so wonderful, you wouldn't think that it has a terrible story. The Dominican Hill Retreat House, or better known as the Diplomat Hotel, has a hidden, gruesome history that is truly terrifying. It is an abandoned structure located in Dominican Hill, Baguio City. The entire property on which it stands has been renamed as Dominican Heritage Hill and Nature Park. It is currently under construction under the efforts of the Baguio City government. It is also one of the places that people visit whenever they want to go in Baguio. This Diplomat Hotel is over 100 years old. As a result, it has a creepy historical experience. In 1911, the American friars of the Order of Preachers, commonly known as the Dominican Order, along with some Spaniards, made a plan to build a vacation home in Baguio City for them and for the nuns of their order. One of the members of the law was Father Roque Ruano. Father Roque Ruano was one of those who designed the structure of the current campus of the Universidad de Santo Tomas, now known as the University of Santo Tomas or UST. They bought a 17-hectare hill land from an American landowner in Baguio City. Construction began in 1913, supervised by Father Ruano, but it is stopped in 1915. To take advantage of the tax exemptions, the law built a seminary named Colegio del Santísimo Rosario in June 1915. But due to very little enrollment, the school closed 2 years later and the building was restored its former condition. The hill on which the building stands was baptized as Dominican Hill. During the World War II, people fleeing from the Japanese saw refuge within its walls. Japanese forces raided the property and made it their headquarters, making it the last bastion and garrison of the Japanese Imperial Army. Their secret police, known as the Kempeitai, committed barbaric acts in the area such as torture, rape, and beheading of priests and nuns as well as refugees. During the liberation of the Philippines in April 1945, American forces bombed the area and hit the right-wing building while Japanese forces committed suicide. Between 1945 to 1947, the building underwent restoration. A few years later, Dominican Hill Retreat House was returned into a hotel then. Acquired by Diplomat Hotels Incorporated, owned the property in 1973 and completely transformed the interior into 33-bedroom hotel, but it still retains the unique features previously established by the Dominican friars. The hotel is run by Antonio Agapito Tony Agpawa, a Baguio-based entrepreneur and faith healer famous for psychic surgery. Agpawa suffered a heart attack and was diagnosed with a brain hemorrhage in the 1980s. He died in 1987 of diseases. Following its abandonment, the area was looted and confiscated. The building also suffered extensive damage during the 1990 earthquake in Luzon. However, there are widespread rumors that the Diplomat Hotel is haunted by ghosts or restless souls. It is really true? According to rumors, there are souls of nuns who show up to people who are visiting the Diplomat Hotel. These nuns are said to have died during the height of World War II. It is said that the Diplomat Hotel was then entered by the Japanese who are currently occupy the Philippines then. These Japanese may have been murdered the nuns living in the Diplomat Hotel called the Diplomat Hill Retreat House at that time. World War II was one of the most horrific and memorable history of the whole world, especially in the Philippines, because what the Filipinos have experienced at the hands of the occupiers is really horrible. And there are also some places in the Philippines that have experienced cruelty or torture of people living in that area. There are areas that were actually targeted and raided by the occupiers. The Commonwealth of the Philippines was attacked by the Empire of Japan on December 8, 1941, 9 hours after the attack of Pearl Harbor. Although it was governed by a semi-independent Commonwealth government, the United States of America controlled the Philippines at that time and possessed important military bases there. The combined American-Filipino Army was defeated at the Battle of Bataan and the Battle of Corregidor in April 1942, but guerrilla resistance against the Japanese continued throughout the war. Uncaptured units of the Philippine Army, a communist insurgency, and supporters of American agents all played a role in the battle. Due to the enormous number of islands, the Japanese never occupied many of the smaller and smaller islands. Japanese control over the countryside and small towns was often weak. In September 1940, Nazi Germany, Kingdom of Italy, and Empire of Japan allied under the tripartite coalition as Axis powers. The United States banned shipments of aviation gasoline to Japan in July 1940, and in 1941, shipments of scrap iron, steel, gasoline, and other materials virtually stopped. Meanwhile, American economic support for China began to rise. Japan and the USSR signed a neutrality pact in April 1941, and Japan increased pressure on the French and Dutch colonies in Southeast Asia to cooperate on economic matters. Japanese forces occupied the maritime and air bases of southern French Indochina. On July 22, 1941, the Philippines was almost surrounded. General George C. Marshall, U.S. said Army Chief of Staff, adequate reinforcements for the Philippines at this time will leave the United States in a position of great danger in case there is a break in Great Britain's defense. A campaign for independence from the U.S. that has been going on since 1919 resulted on January 17, 1933, in which the U.S. Congress passed the Hare-Hawes Cutting Act with the veto of President Herbert Hoover. Philippine law promised independence after 10 years, but reserved some military and naval bases for the United States, as well as the imposition of tariffs and quotas on Philippine exports. President Manuel L. Quezon of the Philippine Senate convinced the legislature to reject subsequently the Tidings-McDuffie Act, which removes provision for U.S. military reservations and replaced a provision for ultimate settlement, became U.S. law on March 24, 1934, and was enacted of the U.S. legislature on May 1. Its impact on the future defense of the Philippines in the establishments will prove disastrous. During the 10-year transition period, the Philippine Constabulary endowed with the ever-increasing responsibility of defending the Philippine borders. However, the U.S. Army has already spent millions building fortifications and airstrips throughout Luzon. These include harbor defense in Manila Bay, at Force Mills on Corregidor Island and on Guande Island in Subic Bay. There are also bases at Nicholas Air Station, Nelson Air Base, Fort William McKinley, Camp Murphy in Quezon City, Camp O'Donnell in Tarlac, and a series of air bases and army installations in Pampanga, including Fort Stotzenburg, Clark Air Base, as well as Camp Wallace in La Union, the Naval Station in Sangley Point, Cavite City, Camp Kately in Lanao, Camp Eldridge in Los Baños, Laguna, and Camp Henry T. Allen in Baguio. Other fields in Tuguegarao, Apari, Isabela, Nueva Ecija, Legazpi, Bataan, and Del Monte in Davao were also built using US funds before and during the early 1935 Provisional Commonwealth. After World War II, the lives of people living in the raided areas gradually returned to normal. But there are some signs left, such as the grief and trauma experienced by the families of the war victims. And the worst of it, some of the people became homeless. Decades later, the Dominican Hill Retreat House, now known as the Diplomat Hotel, was allegedly had horrible things hidden inside it. It is also because of the things left over from World War II. There are visitors to the Diplomat Hotel and they seem to be haunted by the past, because they say many souls or spirits are lost in that area. There are those who say that they see the spirits of nuns who may have lived in the Dominican Hill Retreat House, then were killed by the Japanese who occupied the Philippines during World War II. Many are afraid and worried about it. There are production companies that have come and visit the Diplomat Hotel to conduct shooting of the films they are making, and some of them are said to see restless spirits. And there are actually some ghosts on their set. Some unseen ghosts are captured on their cameras, and sometimes they even videotape the terrifying creatures. These spirits are said to inhabit the Dominican Hill Retreat House, now known as Diplomat Hotel. Perhaps these souls were the nuns and priests who died during the World War II. It is said that the priests and nuns killed were beheaded. And after World War II, the Dominican Hill Retreat House was reconstructed. The Diplomat Hotel is not just a destination for tourists to take pictures. People who are getting married also go to this place for their prenup shoot of their wedding. And there are those who go to the Diplomat Hotel to see the beautiful scenery. Due to the location where the Diplomat Hotel is, the whole town of Baguio City can be seen. And there are also those who say that the place should not be feared, because even though it has a terrible story, it has a great benefits for the Philippines, particularly in the city of Baguio.